Welcome everyone to Ambience in Design. This is the channel where I talk about all my architecture projects as well as the classes I took before my architecture program here in Iowa State University. And in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about an assignment that I had in Design 131, and that is to draw 25 chairs. Now, all of us must know what a chair is. We see it every day, we sit in it every day. There are hundreds and hundreds of different chair styles. But what I found very challenging is when I specifically spend out time to actually look, observe, and to study chairs and draw them. Now, this assignment is a continuation from the cube assignment and the cylindrical assignment. So, as if you draw, you must have known that we can deconstruct very complex objects into simpler shapes in the form of, say, cube or cylindrical or planes in order to accurately capture their ratio, and then we can add in the details. And we're going to do the same thing with the chairs. We're going to break them down to planes, cylindricals, cubes, small cubes that we can manage and get the right ratio. Now, to demonstrate my point, I've got this picture of a chair to show you how exactly it's done. And if you can see here, this is just a normal looking chair, but what's special about it is how we approach it in terms of what is the angle that we're gonna see and how we're gonna draw it. Now, first thing to do is to find a length that it's going to act as your guide in order to divide this chair into a specific ratio. Now, it is very important how you pick your length, because determined on your length, you can be super accurate and it can take a very long time to measure and accurately edit it so your chair has the same ratio as the one in the picture. Or you can be choosing one that's very easy to measure and yet not accurate at all. So depending on you, you can decide whether or not you want to spend a lot of time to draw this chair now. For me, if you look at where the plane that people sit, I kind of draw out a cross, and I'm going to be using the vertical length as my guide in order to divide up this chair into my desired ratio. I choose the vertical one because it's relatively short yet manageable compared to the longer horizontal one, and you will see why in a minute. So after you pick your length, we can establish a boundary outside of the chair and we will work our ways inward. So the first thing is to draw an imaginary box that will seal the chair. So as you can see here, with the length that I picked, I turn it sideways and you can see the ratio. So the width of the chair, the longest width from the outermost edges of the leg to the other side of the other leg, it's around about 3 1/3 of that length. And with the height, it's gonna be almost 5.5. So as you can see here, if I were to pick the horizontal line before I decided, it's gonna be way more problematic because the length would be too long and I would have to go back and recheck to make sure that it's accurate enough. But with the vertical line that I flip to the horizontal and use that as the guide to measure my box, you can get it more accurate and you don't have to go back constantly and recheck to see if your ratios is correct or not. After I divided the chair, I established two main parts, which are the plane that you put your butt on and the leg of the chair. So let's take a look at the plane and isolate everything else. And on the left side, we're gonna start marking up where is the edges, the top part of the edges compared to the overall rectangle, and where would the bottom of that edges be compared to the overall rectangle, and so on and so forth. As you can see here, I slowly but surely mark up every inch of the key components of a chair, and after I mark it, I just have to connect them with lines, and I have to make sure that those are straight enough, or it as well represent the subject that I'm drawing. So as you can see here, I have to take into account of the angle in which the chair is pointing down. So it's not 45 degrees, it's not 60 degrees, it's not 80 degrees, but somewhere along that line. So you have to eyeball it. As you can see in my drawings, all of the chairs I've drawn has an outline of a box kinda, and within that box you can see all the markups I made while I was developing the skeleton of the chair, and then I just had to go back and trace them with blue pencil before I actually put the line weight on top of that blue pencil layer. And you can see the progression from a rectangular or square box into a square or rectangular box that has markups on them, into a blue line, kind of, you know, determining where the chair is, and into a full-fledged chair. I think one of the main problems for me with this assignment is that I have to go out on the field and actually draw them outside of the studio, because usually I am in a controlled environment, which means that I would go to my drawing studio and they would set up like this composition and we would sit around that composition and draw. But with this assignment, I had to go out of my studio and into the real world kind of type and draw them from a distance. And usually, kind of a funny story, when I set up my chair and I go across, like, you know, maybe 5 feet and sit down on the other chair to draw, a person would come to my chair that I intentionally set up and just sit on them, and I had to go and talk to them like, hey, I intentionally, you know, set up this chair so that I can draw them, can you please move? So that was one of the problems that I encountered. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Tune in next time for more architecture content from Iowa State University, and subscribe to my channel, Ambience and Design, for more architecture content, and I will see you next time.